Welcome to Cafecito Con. We are a show where we invite guests to inform us, enlighten us, and inspire us by sharing about themselves and the spaces they step into and make their own. We are your hosts, Dalila Vasquez and Rosa Martin Munoz, an intergenerational duo hoping to bring you conversations about women, with women, and for women. We hope to build community without borders so that women can express, inspire, inform, and lead to true self growth. We call our talks Cafecito Con to have an open forum for a variety of conversations and content. We want to share a cup of love and create spaces for womanhood to chat, to learn, to grow. We want to reclaim our spaces of conversation about each other. We are not gossiping or chismeando, we are compartiendo, sharing our stories. More importantly, we're giving our best to each other. We'll talk about faith, life, business, hopes, and dreams.
Hello, everyone. All right. And today we have a very special guest, someone who is near and dear to my heart, someone that I just met a couple of months ago, but has made such a huge influence and impact on mine. Very excited to have Juresha Alemayehu on this show. And yeah, we're just going to have a good old conversation. So let's get started. Juresha, there are a few things that we do like to cover. So throughout this, the women on the show will want to hear about who you are as a person, the different roles that you take on. Also, your purpose. Why do you do the things that you do? Power. How do you influence others? And then your faith. How do you practice spirituality, and what defines your spirituality? All right. So, hey, Dresha, great to see you.
Hi.
You look gorgeous.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today. I really appreciate being on this platform and seeing it grow from its inception. I'm honored to be here.
Yes. So, Juresha here, man, you are who you are. You're a strong woman, woman in construction. And so just more background on Juresha. You did go to, well, you were born and raised in Inglewood, and you went to school out at Florida A&M, where you studied civil engineering, and now you're back in lovely Southern California. You've been working for Turner Construction for the past 17 years, where you started off as a field engineer and you've made your way up the ranks as a project manager. So you've worked on some great projects like the SoFi Stadium. Yes. You've done some other projects as well, but we want to know about Juresha. Who is Juresha to you? Who are you, Juresha?
Thank you for that wonderful introduction. So I'll be remiss if I didn't slow it down for those who aren't familiar with my name. It comes from the Bible, 2 Kings. She was the wife of King Uzziah and the mother of King Jotham, and it represents, the name represents like chosen or beautiful woman. And my last name, Alemayehu, I tell people that it's of Ethiopian descent, and in order to kind of remember what it sounds like, because it's spelled differently than how it sounds, I tell people to think of Alleluia and Cinco de Mayo, so it's Alemayehu.
Alemayehu.
Yes. So Juresha Alemayehu is my name. My mother named me. My grandmother wanted me to be Dresha. She's from Amet, Louisiana, and my mother was from New Orleans, Louisiana, and my mom had 2 boys. I have 2 older brothers. We're all 5 years apart, roughly. And when it was time to have a girl, everybody was all excited. And my grandmother said, I want to name her. And my mom, she liked the name Dresha, but she thought that it should be refined a little bit. And she found Juresha in the Bible. And so she changed up some of the vowels so that, you know, she was an English teacher, so she wanted my name to be phonetically spelled.
Ooh.
I
Yes.
love it.
And so, yeah, that's how I got my name. And my mom always told me that, you know, I have a unique purpose in this life and that I am special and I'm different and that, you know, my name means something. And she really instilled in me, both my mom and my dad, that to just go for it and to be, it's okay to be different. So, you know, I would come home sometimes and say, they made fun of my name today. My maiden name, by the way, is Maples. So I had, you know, they would call me maple syrup and things like that in school,
Aw,
which is funny. You know, it's funny now, but
it's cute.
yeah, absolutely. Now I'm like, I own it. Yeah, I'm sweet. I go on everything. um, but yeah, I'm the daughter of two Southern educators who saw the value in education. Both of them, my dad's from Dallas, Texas. My mom's from New Orleans, Louisiana. They both moved out to California in search of a better life. And then they found each other. And both of them pursued education. My dad taught math and computers, and my mom taught English. And so I was raised in a household where education was just very important. I remember, you know, during the summertime where my friends would go to summer camp and just kind of hang out, I had to do phonics books and and math workbooks. And I would cry at first, you know, and then as time went on, I grew to appreciate it because I would go back to school a little bit ahead of my peers. And then when I got to the 8th grade, I don't know exactly how my name was put into a hat, but I was chosen to go to a program at UCLA called SMARTS. And it stands for Science, Mathematics, Achievement, and Enrichment for Students. And this was a program where they specifically targeted inner city kids to teach them about advanced sciences and math so that they would go into this, back then we didn't even call it, but the STEM field, right?
Mhm.
And this was the summer before my starting high school, so going into the 9th grade. And I remember that we had a career fair. And at the career fair, I spoke to a gentleman who told me that he built roller coasters for a living and that he was an engineer. And that just did something to me. I just was like, oh my God, I'm gonna be an engineer. Because I loved roller coasters. And this program continued on throughout my high school. We would meet on Saturdays, and sometimes in the summer we'd have bridge programs. And at the end of the program, you know, they asked, you know, how many people are going to go into the math and science field, and only a few were truly interested, and I was one of them. And now that we have actually, you know, graduated, grown up, gone on with our lives, that out of that entire group, it was like 12 to 15 of us, I'm the only one who pursued engineering. And so I say that to say that my life has always been filled with opportunities for me to blaze a new trail. And even though sometimes it's scary, I've been able to do that. And so that's just a little bit about who I am. I'm a daughter. I'm a wife. I met my husband almost 10 years, well, over 10 years ago now in Dallas, Texas, through my cousin who played matchmaker.
You were set up.
Oh, yes. She totally set us up.
I hope she's invited to all of the Thanksgivings,
absolutely.
You know,
all
all
we
of the
celebrate
good stuff.
her. We definitely celebrate her. And she did it in such a unique way too, that we didn't even know it was happening till later on. And it just so happens that my husband is from Los Angeles, California, but had been living in Texas since high school. So he had always wanted to come back home, and meeting me and on our relationship, it helped him to come back home and to build the life he always wanted in Southern California. So I always say that we made the grand gesture. Just one little funny thing, when when he was got the position to come to Los Angeles, he told me to help him find a place to stay. He had only 2 weeks. They needed him right away.
Wow.
And I said, where's the address to your job so I can find some place that's close to your job? He gave me the address. And when he said the address, I was on the phone and I remember just pausing for a minute, like, are you kidding me? So my main office for the company that I work for, Turner Construction, is in Anaheim. And it's in the Anaheim parking lot. And the address is 1900 State College Boulevard. And he told me the address was 1900 State College Boulevard, 6th floor. So if that isn't a sign, my company had the entire 2nd floor. And his company, originally, when he first moved to LA, he was on the 6th floor. Now, mind you, I was working out in the field, but still, that was just a sign to me.
Oh. You guys
I
are
love
going to
it
meet
that you-
regardless.
Yeah, and I love that you paid attention to that, right? Sometimes I call the little miracles that happen every day. Sometimes they just go by unattended, unobserved, unnoticed, right? But if we pay attention to what is around us, I think that we learn to be grateful and we learn to see the path that is in front of us, the opportunities, like you mentioned, right? And sometimes it's in the personal, sometimes it's in the business, but whatever it is, it's good to pay attention.
Yes, it absolutely is. And speaking of paying attention, I studied civil engineering in school. And while I was on campus, several of the buildings on my campus were being refurbished. And I think it was subliminal messaging. At the time, my company was #1 in a lot of different categories in Engineering News Record, which is a magazine that rates all of the commercial construction companies. And so I saw that they were #1 in all these categories. And I was like, I want to meet this company when they have a career fair in my school. And when I went to speak with one of the representatives, I was only a freshman. Most people there attending the career fair were juniors and seniors trying to get internships and full-time position. But I went over as a freshman and I was like, I'm just so impressed with this company. Can you tell me more about it? And she said to me, well, have you walked by the business school or some of the other buildings on campus? That's our work. And I said, wow, that's so amazing. I never even paid attention to the sign that was in front of it. But it was almost like it was destiny for me to come work for this company.
Where you have built a very impressive career. I mean, you've talked about the person and, I'm a mother of 3 daughters, right? And I always tell them, you as a person are a package of many things, and your beauty does not get dented by the things that happen to you or the things that you do, right? Your integrity is you, but nonetheless, you are this big collection of so many things. And Juresha, you have a career that is admirable, that I think merits to be yelled out loud in the world, because there's so many girls that need to hear what they can do. I mean, not just boys can play with Legos, right? You can dream of building roller coasters and from there go to the amazing things that you've done. So tell us a little bit about your career, what you've done, what you've proud of. And,
sure.
And if we know something that you forget, we'll just nudge you.
Thank you so much. It's taken me a long time to be proud and to be able to speak up on the things that I've done, especially, a shout out, big major shout out to the Minority Executive Women Leadership Program, Multicultural Executive Leadership Program, Dr. Dasneen David's program, that really, really, really helped me to understand that I don't need to be afraid and that I can be myself and that I can love myself and talk about myself and it's all good.
Love the sisterhood. Yes.
And you were such a trailblazer. You were such an influence to others in the program that you've earned the Dr. Yasmin David's Resilience and Leadership Award. So let's not forget that.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Thank you for that. That still touches me to know that, there was a time where I thought that I wasn't doing well in the program and then they tell me you're getting an award.
We were all there.
Again, we're all just
we were.
We can be a little too hard on ourselves.
For sure.
So a little bit about my career. My very first internship was with the Georgia Department of Transportation And I was so excited to be in construction. I was working on a freeway expansion project that's just south of the Hartsfield Atlanta Airport. We were widening the freeway, adding a sound barrier wall. And I got a chance to work with one of the general contractors out there that was doing the concrete work. And I remember him telling me something that stuck with me. He said, you know, this side of the industry is kind of slow. He said, do yourself a favor and check out the commercial side. And I said, really? And he said, yeah. He said, you'll love it. And, you know, after interning there, I was accepted. You know, I had several offers with not only the Georgia Department of Transportation, but several other departments of transportations across the US because they share information. But there was something that was tugging me about going into the commercial space. And when I got accepted with Turner, I was like, I have to do it. And it's kind of a funny story. I told the recruiting officer that I wanted to be in either Atlanta, DC, or Dallas because I had friends and family there. And they were like, okay, great, but your home address says Los Angeles, so we're going to put you there.
You can want whatever you want, right?
And they, you know, they absolutely will place people, but it was like, it was one of those destiny things where they called and said, well, yeah, the LA office has the position for you. So I said, I guess I'll move back home. And that was honestly the best decision I ever made. My very first project was a hospital in Simi Valley, a small Ventus hospital. And then from there, I went over to the Ronald Reagan UCLA hospital. And then after that, my team went over to the Santa Monica UCLA hospital, where we added a whole new wing and 20 operating rooms. At the Ronald Reagan hospital, I was in charge of the entire operating room level in all of the patient rooms, the psych wards, all of that. So I had my hands in a lot of different buckets. And then after that project, I went out to the Palmdale Regional Medical Center. And that was a new project where we helped as a consultant on that job. And then later I went to this really cool job down in Seal Beach. There was a small pharmaceutical company called Dendreon who was developing this new process and a drug for prostate cancer. And some of that technology that they were developing back then is used in the technology that we have for the COVID vaccine. And I remember that project was such a hot commodity. We used to have to fight off looky-loos who wanted to get a piece of it because they just couldn't wait for the project to finish because they were looking at the stock prices. So that was really exciting.
Wow.
And that was one of the hospital projects, and that project really, really, really helped me to hone in on what I wanted out of construction. Of course, it's cool to build buildings, but it was the end product for me. It was seeing the children walk into the Miller's Children's Hospital room for the first time and seeing the little twinkling stars on the ceiling light up and seeing the little boy in the wheelchair say, whoa, so loud. I mean, tears just stream down my face every time I think about it. You know, it was like, yeah, all of our hard work was worth it. And then for Dendreon, you know, knowing that they were developing a process to help cure or help to treat, you know, prostate cancer. You know, I felt like I always said when I was growing up and when I was in college that I wanted to make an impact. And I didn't want to just build buildings, but I wanted to build buildings that made an impact. And then after Dendreon, I was able to go to my hometown of Inglewood. Of all the projects in all of Southern California, an elementary school that needed a complete remodel. They had to tear it all the way down and build it back up because it was sinking. And lo and behold, this is my rival elementary school that's literally steps away from my house. And for 2.5 years, I was able to walk to work, which is unheard of in construction.
Wow.
The adage in construction is that you're supposed to pass 2 jobs before you get to your own. So, and of course, the pride that I felt, even though it was my rival high school, I was building in my community. And that was the first time where I remember I was hosting a community meeting and some of the members of the community were getting a little riled up. And I remember one of my neighbors standing up and saying, hey guys, I don't think you know who this woman is right here who's trying to tell you guys about the project. She's like, I watched her grow up from 5 years old. She's a part of this community. She has a stake in this community, and she actually cares about this community. And, you know, I was grateful at the time for him standing up, but it also just, again, was one of those realization aha moments, like, I'm actually building in my community and they see it. There's an impact that's happening, and they actually are seeing the impact. And so that was back in 2010, and it's now 2021. And I've been on all the Inglewood projects that we have.
I was going to say, you have a footprint there, and a huge footprint at that, right?
Yes, yes. So
Born
after
and
the
raised.
elementary school, there was another small elementary school that we did a sound retrofit because it's in the flight path. And then literally right down the street, there was a racetrack, the old, you know, famous racetrack, the Hollywood Park racetrack. And
I
they
used
said,
to
"Oh,
live working distance from there
oh, wow.
on 103rd.
Oh, right around there. Yes. So they said, oh, well, we need a team to go do a demolition project there. It's just a small demolition project. And we were finishing up the elementary school. I said, oh, that's perfect. We'll, you know, do that a couple of months and be out. And lo and behold, we started the demolition, and then found out that we were going to be building an NFL stadium that we would also be remodeling and removing and putting up a brand new casino, building a performance venue. And, you know, now it's a whole city that's bigger than Vatican City. There's 300 acres there, and you can actually fit the whole Vatican City inside of that landmass.
And it's gorgeous. It is phenomenal. I saw J-Lo's ex-husband, why can't I think of his name? I saw him in
Mark Anthony?
Mark Anthony in concert there. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's just amazing.
Yes, it's exciting.
Such a footprint in Inglewood.
Yes, and the most rewarding part of it all is to again see all of the people, all the jobs that were created, to be able to talk to the community and to see how happy they are that we're finally doing something with the land, you know, that all the property values are increasing, and that people are just really excited. Before, I'll tell you this, and I was actually guilty sometimes, depending upon my audience, I wouldn't say that I lived in Inglewood. I would say that I lived, if they asked where I lived, I'd say, oh, I live just north of Westchester or just east of Culver City. It's a small little town. But now we're very proud to say Inglewood to whoever asks. And so that's a beautiful thing.
Oh, I love it, because LA, or the greater LA area, has many of those pockets, right? I graduated from Crenshaw High, and a few weeks back, I took my youngest daughter to a drive to where I used to live, just a block away from Crenshaw High. But when we passed by what used to be Robinson's May and what used to be the shopping mall, and it's now so very different than it was in the 80s, I was telling her how that community has flourished. And my kids tease me a little bit because I was learning English, and in the whole high school, of the 2,000 and some students, there was probably 5 or 10 of us Latinos there.
Oh,
and
wow.
I had just come from South America, so I needed to make friends. And most of those friends were cholitos. And I didn't know any better. So I had a leather band that said Bunny on it. So they always tease me. And I'm from the hood. My cholita name was Bunny and whatnot. But, you know.
Bring it back, Dalila.
Well, now Crenshaw's like a cool thing, right?
Right.
Everybody represents and wears the clothing. And
Right. So it is important to look back and carry that with you, right? That they are, as I mentioned before, we are a package of many little things, and we can't leave anything behind, because all of that is what makes us be who we are, right?
Absolutely.
And when I think of construction, because I was thinking about this, you know, at least in the Latino community, when you think about construction, you think of construction workers, right? And most of the time, they're not looked upon with pride. They make really good money. I mean, it's physical labor, but it's not unskilled labor, and it's not well-paid labor. It's important labor at that too, right?
Yes, and one thing that's a misconception, and even being a part of STEM programs when I was younger, unless you really know someone in the industry, a lot of people only think of construction, as you said, as the person who swings the hammer. But construction is an industry that has so many different aspects. I mean, there's accounting, there's cost people who analyze, there's procurement, there's insurance, there's engineers, there's architects, there's a whole gamut of, of, of people and positions that make up our industry. And like, for example, my company, especially in Southern California, in some areas they self-perform, but for the majority of the Southern California business unit, we don't self-perform. So what we do is we provide the management of the construction project from start to finish. And we work alongside with the architects and the owner to help develop projects. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into the construction industry. And that's actually one of the initiatives that we have, is to make sure that we let the world know, and also specifically the youth. There used to be an initiative called Youth Force 2020. That's morphed, and now we have specific programs, one of them being the ACE Mentor Program. And so for the last, I don't know how many years, I can't even remember when I first started with them, but we work with high school students to teaching them about architecture, engineering, and construction. And we teach them everything that we know, with over a course of a year. We go through a live project with them, and then they go to a competition where they're not formally judged, but they get to present their project. They have a model, they speak, and we give out scholarships. And it's just a really good program to work with the community, and also to just make sure that we're giving back. And I've been really lucky these last few years to work with Morningside High School, which is literally steps away from the stadium. And to see a group of students who, when we first started, there was one kid who said he wanted nothing to do with construction. He was coming for the free pizza, okay? And he graduated, and we were at an event, a networking event, and he walks over to us. And I was confused why he was there. And he said, "Oh, I'm interning for a construction company." And I said, "Wow."
Oh my.
Yes.
So and that's what
who you're touching.
And that's what students need, is that connection to someone that's actually working in the field that they are relating to, they're talking to. They can say, "Hey, that could be me," and you're bringing that in. I did, what was it, one Women in Science event that they sent me to a conference at UC Riverside, but I didn't have that one-on-one connection where I was able to say, "Hey, I really admire, look at that lady up there. She looks great. I admire her. I want to be just like her." If I would have had that, I felt like I probably would have gone into the math and science fields. So that's super important that you're giving back to the youth, and you're representing Inglewood, you're representing what's possible, and you're being that bridge for the students and giving them a role model to look up to.
Yeah, there's more than riveter, right? In construction.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I do want to ask, because we know you've already touched upon this, there's not a lot of women in construction. It's still something where it's stereotypically male. But what does it mean to be a woman in construction now? Are you facing the same challenges? What challenges are you facing? Are things getting better? Culture getting better? What does it mean now for you?
And this is literally not a shameless plug, but I strongly believe that my company is one of the most progressive companies in the construction industry. And I've seen so much growth even from when I first started. When I first started, there was one or two female project managers. And that was all that I really had to look up to and to emulate. And today, I mean, there's not only are there project managers, but there's women in operations. Our regional, the vice president of this whole region is a woman. I mean, that's
Wow.
just, yeah, isn't
Yeah.
that powerful?
Yeah.
My operations manager is a woman, you know, so I've I've seen a lot of growth in this company. You know, we're definitely one of the leaders in the industry, but you know, there's still some challenges that we need to face. You know, for example, I'm working on some bid forms right now, and one of the questions on the bid form says, "What's your man hours?" Which
Oh.
represents like how many hours a
Oh.
person's going to work on the job, right? And I'm like, hello, labor hours, because there might be some women performing that work,
Right.
you know?
Mhm.
Things like that. And, you know, in my career, I've definitely had to prove myself. Actually, it's so interesting, you know, when I started the MWell program, we had to do a 360. And one of the things that came up on my 360 was that one of my coworkers, which all of them that were on my 360 were male, so I knew it was a male who said it, but they were disturbed that, you know, when I was in meetings and someone would talk over me, that I wouldn't stand up for myself a little bit more. And what was interesting is that of course I wanted to, but I wasn't sure if it was my place. And what was interesting to me was to see that other people were seeing it and noticing it and wanted me to do something about it. And it was one of those things where it was like, if she's not going to do it or even bring it up, then I'm not sure if it's my place to do it. And it just really helped me to understand that, you know, we have to have our own voice. We have to have our own voice, especially more so in the construction industry. A woman might be, you know, talked over at times. But it just was really eye-opening to see that, you know, my counterparts wanted me to speak up and that they wanted me to stand up for myself and to get my point across, which is actually really good. It makes me feel like, man, there's people out there that are there to encourage me, you know. I'm not fighting the same battle that I used to fight when I was younger. So.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. You know, in this show, we talk about stepping into different spaces. And instead of talking about the hats we wear, which it is appropriate for construction in so many ways, we talk about the shoes we wear, because it's also, and it isn't so appropriate for construction, right? Because as women, we are more likely to think of, what am I going to wear when I go to this place? And we need to be in the shoes that we are most confident in, so that we can step into the spaces and own them. And sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's challenging, maybe because we are pioneering, maybe because we're older, maybe because we're younger, maybe because of our culture. Because at home, they've taught us, right, that the elder has the floor, we respect the authority. Absolutely. So it's not that we're putting ourselves down, it's that we're living what we have been taught. But I love it that you recognize it and that you can change it, because this is what our kids need to hear. Somebody said to me yesterday, you know, what happened to don't make your mother suffer and be good, so that your mom is not upset about what you're doing. But I think that it's okay for mothers to be upset and for mothers to be uncomfortable. The job of children is to challenge us. That's how they grow. You know, learning for what boundaries can they push and what boundaries they cannot. That's something that as moms, we have to live with. So I thank you for making that comment. And it's so great in leading into the other area that we like to talk about, and that is the circles of influence. You know, who do we influence? And someone like you, Juresha, I can see you influencing anyone that hears you saying, I am a woman in construction. I mean, just say that and you know, people are going to go, what? You work with the hammer? What do you do? Right? Exactly. So what are the circles of influence that you see that you enter into, and how you go about managing them?
You know, for a long time, I tell this story, I was the last woman of color that was hired at my company. I used to think that I did something wrong. And it wasn't until I spoke up about 5 or 6 years ago. I went to the recruitment manager and, you know, I said, you know, is it okay if we recruit at the National Society of Black Engineers Conference? That's the avenue in which I was recruited to Turner. And I wanted to be able swear it was turned off. That's sexual professionalism. I
It happens.
apologize.
It happens.
And so I spoke to my recruiting manager, and she was like, of course. And I'm like, wow, this whole time I was thinking that, it was something specifically that I may have done. And it was just that it was an oversight. And so we developed a team, and we started going to the regional conference out here and even the national conference. And now I can say that there's so many people of color who have come behind me, especially African Americans. And, there's, women now, there's multiple African American women in my company, where at a time you could literally count on one hand. And so I feel as though I am that gap between where we first started and where we are now. I feel like I'm not taking all the credit, but I feel like I had something to do with that.
And it's important to recognize it. Sometimes we are too shy to recognize it, or to own it, or to step in and say, yeah, I did that. I know I have troubles getting compliments. I remember recently I helped my niece with developing her business, and I was sharing with her what she can do and how she can promote herself. And I was introducing her to people so that she can figure out, just kind of lifting her so that she can do it herself, right? And I remember my brother-in-law, we were at a dinner and said, oh yeah, no, we have to thank Delis. That's how he calls me. And I was like, no need for that. I mean, we're doing something else here. But I think back at those moments, and putting that compliment down does not necessarily allow the youth around us to be proud and to be uplifted with us, right? Instead of seeing it, I am too humble. What we should do is look at it, yeah, I've done that, and everyone else can do that and then some, right?
Absolutely.
But it's not a place that we are always comfortable stepping into, right?
Yeah.
And I'm much older now, so and this happened recently too. So I think I'm learning, or at least thinking about it. But it's good to recognize it. It's good to own it. You have influences, and you have children, right, that are around you that are constantly watching. And why not? They can be like you, and they can be the next step of you, right? They can grow from your experiences.
One of the things that you would talk about through our program, Juresha, that you'd mention regarding the impact that you had was this, just, I need to let go of fear.
Oh, wow.
I need to let go. I've learned that I had fear, and I need to let go of it. What did you mean by that? And how has that allowed you to change things today in your perspective?
Thank you for leading, nudging me, dear Rosa. I appreciate you.
Because this is where these conversations are important. Because
yes, no, they are.
And because of you, I started to see how I was leading parts of my life with fear, and it shouldn't be that way.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about this, and then it's probably going to roll into spirituality because they're tied. So I was raised in a Christian home. I, at a very young age was introduced to Jesus Christ, and to my mother was Catholic. My dad was from the AME Protestant background. And so I had a little bit of both worlds. And I was always taught that you're supposed to fear God. And I took that literally. And I also, I was thinking about this the other day. I took it literally. And I used to be just afraid of so many things for no reason. Every year that we'd start school, I'm about to start school, and I would be like, oh God, I'm going to go to this next grade. Am I going to be able to handle it? Do I know enough information? But, day by day, you learn what you're supposed to learn. And the next thing you know, you end up doing well and graduating with honors. I mean, but I used to just psych myself out all the time. And, I realized I was doing that in all parts of my life, where I would literally set up these walls and these, just extreme situations in my head. and just be so fearful for no reason. One of them, a prime example, is animals. I was definitely afraid of dogs my entire life. I literally, my heart would race. I would start sweating. If I knew you had a dog, I would try not to come over your house, but if you were a really good friend, or I would be like, please put the dog up before I even step foot in the house. I was like crazy about that. And my husband 2 years ago, he was like, I'm bringing home a dog. And I was like, no, you're not. He's like, it's already done. And it was a American Pit Terrier. Of all the dogs, right? He's got to be, a big dog. And every time I looked down at him, I was definitely afraid when he brought him home. I'm not gonna lie. I went to Petco right away and got a cage. I was like, I can't go to sleep if this dog is running around the house.
Wait. I have to pause you for a second and thank you. My family gets really mad at me when I say pull out the cage because they call it kennel, right? Or whatever it is that they call it. But I think of it as a cage. So thank you. I'm sorry. I just had to acknowledge that.
That's hysterical. And he never slept in the cage. He's always been very spoiled and was able to sleep, on the couch or with us. And I look down at him every day that I see him. And it reminds me not only that there is a God, but that you can change, and that the things that you put in your life as hurdles are sometimes put there by yourself, and only you can take them away. I say this to my friends casually, but it's really true. Like, his name is Alpha. And when I look at Alpha, I say, I know there's a God, because I actually love my dog and spend so much time with him. Whereas, if you would ask me from 0 to 38, I would have told you, no way, Jose, I'm not having a dog.
Nothing to be afraid of with that cuteness.
Absolutely. And so just in life, this program, the MWELP program, helped me to recognize that I was afraid, one, that I was putting up this block of being afraid of things. And then I tried to understand, like, as it pertains to like my life, not necessarily the animals, but like my life, my career, what was I really afraid of? And I figured it out, that I was actually afraid of succeeding. I'd always felt like, I was a pioneer or the first in my family to do this or that. And I felt like there was a lot of weight on my shoulders. And so I would say, oh God, I don't want to do it. Let me just not do it, right? I just shouldn't do it. That's me being afraid to fail. But really, it wasn't afraid to fail. It was really afraid to succeed. Like, well, then what happens if I do well? And then they're going to expect what of me? And it was always this anxiety, this angst about what other people thought of me. Do you know how freeing it is to just say, you know what? It's okay to be yourself. Who you are, how you show up in this world. There's only one of you, and God did not make you to be like everyone else. It is okay. I want to tell you something. I have had a few failures in my life, but I've had a lot of successes. Mm-hmm. And they all came from me putting in hard work and faith. And so it's just amazing to be able to say, there's no reason to be afraid. One of the most repeated phrases throughout the Bible is fear not. I don't know the exact number, but I know a friend who knows it, but it's repeated so many times, fear not, fear not, fear not. And I think it's there to remind us, you don't need to be afraid, because the fear, it can be for a quick moment, but the action, the faith, whatever you're going to do to overcome that fear, that's what really matters.
Lead with faith, not with fear.
Amen.
Yeah, it's interesting to think that we, in our humanity, in our limited capacity, we could come to understand that we are born with an infinite supply of talents, and that it's really up to us to discover them and to tap into them, that no one can come and take them away. No one can come and fix them or adjust them. That's something that we have. And it is for us to discover. It is for us to live through, right? And to me, that is the greatness of faith, to simply accept that, which sounds, I don't know, sometimes it sounds too simple, but it's so immense. And I do spend time thinking about that, because I am older now, and I see my daughters growing up and discovering life. And oftentimes I'm searching for what is the wisdom that I can pass on to them. And more times than not, I come back to, I don't have to find it. They will find it on their own. All I have to do, all I have to do is be there for them, right? So that I can accompany them. And it sounds, again, it sounds so simple.
And that's weight off your shoulders.
Yeah.
Less anxiety, less worrying, less
Absolutely.
staying up all night because you're afraid. You can't put that upon yourself.
You know, something you just said, Dalila, made me think about a part of my life that I forgot to express, and I'd be remiss if I didn't. You know, I started dancing at the age of 2. I studied jazz, tap, hip hop. And then when I got to, you know, high school, I studied modern. And then in college, I started studying cultural dance. And one of the things about dance, there's moments where you have a lot of space and you can do these grand gestures that fill up the entire room. And then there's sometimes just the most subtle moment, the most intimate move that you can do that speaks so much louder than any of the grand gestures you could ever do. And it's kind of like what you were just talking about. It's the simple things in life that sometimes can have the biggest impact on people.
Yes. And when you give yourself permission, and when you give those who you love permission to be in touch with that, it's grand. I'm going to brag a little. I don't do that a lot, but I am going
Stretch
to brag a
yourself.
little, right?
It's okay. It's okay. It's
My
okay to
daughter,
talk.
yeah, my oldest daughter just defended her dissertation. So I have a doctor in the house now.
Wonderful.
And it is just so amazing to know that. But there is this kid who now has her doctorates. She's going to be doing a postdoc at one of the USA universities, my kid, right? Yet 2 weeks ago, she was dancing at the Mariachi Plaza in East LA, not paid for, but because she loves her culture, she's in touch with her identity. It wasn't a theater, it wasn't anything luxurious, right? Because sometimes we wear those titles and we expect certain things, right? No, she was there with our people, mingling, helping others, saying, yes, I can do that dance. No, I cannot do that dance. Putting on the makeup and the whole, the whole 9 yards. And I couldn't help it but to sit there and think, wow, her self-esteem is so good that it does not faze her, the grandiosity of this moment, at least in my eyes, right? Because sometimes we can move through life and think that we are too much or think that we are too little. I often think that people who are constantly explaining about what it is to be humble and what it is to be simple, the more I hear people around me saying, oh, I am a very simple person because I do da. I think they just need to hear it. They're trying to convince themselves, right? Because it's not in the words we speak, it's in the actions we take.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so I wanted to ask you, are you back into dancing? Because I remember having this conversation with you not too long ago. And we had Raven actually in our show talking about her dance classes, and she's teaching now social dancing online, and she's not too far from you.
Yes. So that's a shameless plug that I need to start taking her class. Absolutely.
I am loving you. I'm not shaming you.
Oh, no. That's a fun. I actually haven't formally taken a class since like 2019. But I did attend a concert this past weekend, and I definitely got my group on.
Nice.
Bruno Mars. Twice. Wasn't it twice, Juresha?
Well, that was the second time, but I saw him a couple years ago.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, sister. Share the goods.
I actually, so I lost my mother in February, and she loved to see me dance. And when we had her funeral, it was in March, and this song came on that's called Hosanna. It's a beautiful worship song by Kirk Franklin. I stood up and I was clapping and I was just enjoying the praise and worship aspect of it. And it was just the most amazing angelic thing that happened. I literally felt the emotion and the spirit to just start dancing. And I ended up performing a whole impromptu praise dance. And I just afterwards, I was out of breath because I was not stretched or prepared. But afterwards, I laughed to myself because I said, oh, that was for my mother. She got her wish. She always, every time a song comes on, she's like, why aren't you out there dancing? You know, she always was reminding me to never give up my first love of dance. And so when I was able to do that, that was the last time I've actually done an expressive dance in front of people. It was earlier this year, but it was so moving. And I'm still amazed that because I would never have thought to do something like that. I remember I had a friend who lost her mother, and she danced at her mother. She had a prepared dance. She was very prepared for it. And I remember watching her through the performance and saying, wow, I'm so amazed that she could get through this and that she really is doing this for her mother. And what I realized is that, you know, it was a beautiful impromptu moment, but I feel like it was kind of ordained already. In some way. Yeah.
You honored her, and
Yes,
you honored her
absolutely.
by doing that. And that was your mother in there and you dancing with
Absolutely.
you.
Absolutely. It's gorgeous.
Oh, Juresha, we're just about at the end of the hour, and this conversation, I've loved learning more about you and who you are as a person, and you are making a huge difference in the lives of people in your community and outside, and you're a strong woman in construction, and we're here for you. Thank you for giving up your lunch today to chat with us, and thank you for helping put together the SoFi Stadium, because I'm going to enjoy it. A lot of us are going to enjoy it this Sunday.
I'm going to be sitting there thinking, I know who helped this project.
Thank you both for having me. It's been a pleasure to be on your show, to grace your presence. I'm inspired by what you women are doing, the camaraderie that you've started, and the wonderful conversations that you're having to push the culture forward. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. We couldn't be happier to have you and to share this time with you. We really feel very honored that women say yes and accept to be part of this experiment, so to speak, and just put your life and your voice out forward. You never know who's listening. You never know who we're influencing, right? And if we carry the good intentions, then we uplift each other and everyone else who is around us. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for letting us celebrate you and your journey. Now, I do want to thank our audience for joining us here today. I'm leaving you all with food for thought. Fear and faith have something in common. They both ask us to believe in something we cannot see.
Ooh.
Cafecito Con is a production of two intergenerational women who hope to bring you conversations with women for women. You can listen live every other Thursday at noon by connecting with us via the Clubhouse phone app. You can download the app and look us up by our name, Cafecito Con, and then you can follow us on the app and get alerts of our upcoming shows. You can listen to previous shows by visiting our Facebook page at 2Cafecito Con. That is the sign at number 2, CAFECITOCON, and click on the watch video button on the top right hand of our page. Feel free to leave a comment. We encourage you to follow us and keep listening. If you'd like to send us a message, do so via Messenger to our Facebook page or via Instagram at Number 2, Cafecito con. That is one word. Number 2, Cafecitocon. Feel free to share and keep listening.